back to another episode of ID Labs. This is a later voiceover, so you're going to see me doing all kinds of stuff and banging on keys and things, but the voiceover was recorded later. I want to start with saying creating YouTube videos is hard when you don't have a studio already set up, made for that, or assistance. I do this myself, and I also am actually working on these keyboards, so there are times where I just forget to set up a camera because I'm excited to work on the keyboard. So hopefully there's enough shots in this video, and then I'll show you the final release. This is a Roland JV-80, and it has a particular problem. Roland used a red-colored glue. I don't know if it's fish glue or what it is, but they used a certain kind of glue that over the 30 years that they've aged, it melts and it starts to get nasty. The keys stick together. It drips. It looks like blood. Here you can see it just looks gross. And it makes the keyboard unusable because the keys are all stuck together. And no matter how many times you pop them apart, they stick together again. So this glue holds weights up underneath the keys. It's sort of a pseudo weighted keys thing. So first thing I had to do was take it apart. There are 1 million screws all the way around. There you can see some of the glue melted on the inside. It is nasty stuff. So I'm taking stock of things. Here we go. So now you can see the key weights at the bottom, and that is the whole key bed. And there is anything red, anything red on metal is glue. So here I'm figuring out how to take it apart. There's 2 ribbon cables. There are a bunch of screws holding the key bed in, one of which you won't see me unscrew because it was already out, and I discovered it. It actually sits under the board on the right-hand side where all those ribbon cables go in. There's a screw underneath that also helps hold the key bed in. So when I put it back together, that screw is actually in there. So if you've ever done one of these and you're looking at it and wondering why I took it apart so easily without having to lift that motherboard, that's why. There was no screw underneath there. So once I get these all unscrewed, yep, it just lifted right out. And there you can just see that glue. I think I flip it over here. Well, let's get that out of the way. And then take a look at the key bed. Now what you see here, the keys snap into a little hole at the back, and then there is a spring that pulls them up, that keeps them from just drooping. There we go. And I'm just checking to make sure everything's good. And here we go. So each one's labeled. I didn't have to worry about figuring out the order because they're all labeled. And I actually did, you'll see when I fully take them off, I pulled out my iPad and recorded the actual order. So every key and every black key went back in the exact same way it came out. Here goes the iPad. And I've learned now, well, you can still use your hands, but I also used a screwdriver a tiny little thin screwdriver when I was putting the springs back on, because it will just shred your hands over time trying to pull those things. You can see here too, I think that's the one. One of the springs on this unit that I got was too big. It had been replaced clearly. And I've since replaced it with the proper spring, so they all match. And here I am writing each one of them down. And then I go to the next one, write that one down. Usually have to take the white keys off to get to the black keys. So, and basically you take the spring off, you lift the key out. There is a black strip underneath that holds the keys down, it was already peeling up, so I didn't really have to worry about it. The keys came right out. Now, unlike the white keys, the black keys didn't use the same kind of glue. I don't know if it had been replaced at a later date, but all of the weights were in there, and I only really had to shave a little glue here and there to make sure that the keys were smooth when I hit the key. So here you can see the nasty glue. It is just gross, and it is sticky. So if you touch it, your fingers get sticky. It gets on everything. Here we go, taking all of them off. I don't want to bore you with this, so it's sped up. The white strip you see, there's like a white felt strip. So the keys, the front of the key sits over this thing called a bushing, and it's a plastic bushing, for lack of a better term. It's like a plastic sleeve that fits over a metal bar, and that goes up into every key. And in front of that felt is what the keys strike when you hit them down, and it's also the aftertouch. I ended up replacing that with a strip. I cleared off the aftertouch strip, which is plastic and metal, and just glued on a new strip of felt. And then also the green felt, I replaced that, which is what the keys hit when they come back up. Now, the next step here, in order to clean this, I could have just done the keys, but I'm also... the technique I was told was to use canned air. And as it turned out, you can't see it here because I'm not doing it yet. I haven't figured out. The technique I learned was to tip the can almost upside down and spray, and then it would give you mostly the coolant, which was freezing cold. But the goal here is to scrape off all the extra glue that has dripped on everything. So now I'm unscrewing the contact boards, which were in great shape. They were fine. And here you can see they've used a plastic shielding, and then underneath those are the rubber contacts with, underneath the rubber contacts are carbon discs, and they're at two different heights. So when the key presses down on them, it measures velocity. And underneath that, on the green boards you see at the top of the screen there, are the contacts. So when the key pushes down on the rubber membrane, then it pushes that down into the contact. That's how it functions. Now, what you see here with the razor blade is basically me trying to clean off. I'm trying to freeze that glue so it comes off easier. I did eventually get all of the glue scraped off, because you have to, or the keys will stick to the frame when you put them back together. Here's a close-up. Trying to freeze the glue and hold my camera in one hand and scrape the glue, so I got a little bit of video of it. Yeah, I should have had a straight blade, which is what I used later on. I got a large straight blade, and I just scrape the stuff off. Yes, it leaves marks, but it's down inside the keyboard. No one sees it. All I cared about was getting the glue off so it would not stick in the future, which is the main goal. Get that glue off, make it work, and test all the keys over continuously to make sure that they don't stick in the future. So there's a whole lot of me scraping glue, so I'm going to jump ahead. And again, I did replace that green felt with a new strip of green felt. All right, so this is me cleaning off the bushings. One of the bushings was completely cracked, so I did order a replacement, and I made sure there was no glue in the bushings because the key can stick to the bushing too. Got all the way through that. And I'm just checking for any other glue. That black strip is supposed to hold the keys from popping back up, but it was already coming unglued. I've since glued down one end of it so it doesn't flop around. but it really only serves a purpose to, once the keys are pulled with the spring, it really only serves a purpose for the key not to pop out, but it can't really pop out unless you take it apart. So it's not a huge deal that it's not completely glued down all the way across. Okay, on to cleaning the keys. The trick to cleaning the keys is to pour pure lye into water and mix it up, and then put the keys in it and let the keys sit for a good 24 hours. And the glue will dissolve and the weights will fall out of the keys, although the glue on the black keys did not dissolve, so I'm wondering if that was put later on, because it's a really sloppy mess, but it works. So I left it as is for any of those that didn't fall out. Some of them did fall out, and I replaced the glue on those. But you can see here, after it's been all rinsed, and here's the weights. They did oxidize some, but it doesn't hurt them. They're still weights. I mean, they do their job. I was missing one, so I bought a steel bar at Home Depot or Lowe's. I don't remember. Here you can see a close-up of what it is. So here you can see I chose the bottom key to put the missing weight in. The one on the right is the one that I cut out. So I scored across, and then I scored down one side, and I used a hacksaw and a Dremel tool. Honestly, the Dremel tool would have been fine, but I was indoors doing this, so I switched to a hacksaw because I didn't want to spray sparks everywhere. And then I used a file to sand it down and make it smooth all the way around. And it matches almost exactly. When I put it in my hand, put the other one in my hand, I couldn't tell the difference. And then I put them in keys. Here you can see the weight of the white keys and then the weight of the black keys. And this is 5-minute epoxy, which I forgot to video the first pass, but you'll see me doing the black keys. Yeah, I did all the white keys first and then realized I needed to video it. So you have to get the air bubbles out of them and not shoot yourself with it. And then squirt it into the container to mix the two together. Trying to make sure that they're both coming out at the same time. Here we go. And then they give you a little, this is just Gorilla Glue, honestly. It was the easiest thing I could find. Put the cap back in so I can use it later. And then take that little stir stick and mix it up. And then basically scoop out a bunch, smear it into the inside of the key. See it? I would be careful and do it kind of sideways. I did clean these off afterwards if there was any residue. Because if you get too much glue gunked up in there, it will catch on the bushing and the key will stick down. So I did have to clean off a few of them with a razor blade or a screwdriver to make sure they were smooth and they didn't stick when you played it. But you can see here, I mean, it's pretty basic. I'm just smearing it in there, dropping the weight in, and then I used, on the white keys, you could honestly just put your thumb down on the weight and slide it around to make sure it was lined up. But on the black keys, I used pliers to make sure they were centered left to right and up and down. And just let them sit for a day, and that was that. They were all done. It's really not that hard of a job. This is the reassembly. I've already placed there. You can see those plastic frames. There's the membranes. The frames actually snap into little holes that have pegs, so you can't misalign them. You put those down, and you set these down. First, I put this all together, and the bottom key didn't work. So I took it back apart, and it turns out one of the plastic stems that pushes down on the membranes had broken, and so I glued that back in place. It's nice and sturdy. That was really the only big hiccup. and then a few of the keys would stick when I would play them. So I had to take it back apart again and cut some of the glue out from inside the key where it was catching on the bushing. Once that was done, everything seems to be good. They don't stick. And you can see all the glue is gone. There's some rust bits. The white fabric strip, I did assemble it here, and then I took it apart again and replaced that strip with new gray felt. It's nice and clean. There's no glue on it because this had hard spots in it. So some of the keys were really thunky. So here I am pulling the springs. This is before I realized I could use a really thin screwdriver to pull the spring and catch it. We'll fast forward through this. I'm just testing them as I go to make sure that they don't catch, cleaning them some. Anything that looks like red glue on the bottom of the key is just oxidation on the metal weight. The glue is actually clear on these. So here we have it all assembled. You can see the glue has been cleared off of all the metal frame. I did find more glue in a few spots. The mod wheel, the mod joystick on this was stuck closed. So I had to clean that completely to get all the glue out of it. And here is the key bed reassembled into the frame. And then, so the last thing I did was I wanted to put a regular 3-prong plug on this. And I happened to have one I bought 2 when I put one on my DX21. So I popped this out and realized that without any extra work, the 3-prong fit perfectly. The 3rd prong, you don't need to do anything with it because originally the board was not grounded. So it just is. It doesn't change the sound or hurt it. It just doesn't get used. So I actually clipped them and then stripped them and soldered them onto the new one. And the new one snapped right into place. Let's jump along here. Yeah, here I'm stripping it. And then I ended up cutting the 2 wire ties that were holding the cables together to give me a little more freedom. Cutting the wire ties. And there's the 3-prong. It fits right in there. And then I had a little trouble heating these up. Took a little while. Got kind of messy. And then finally I got the wire heated up enough that I wasn't having to just use the soldering iron by itself to melt the solder, which is not the right way to do it. You're supposed to heat up the wire or the connection point. So I did finally get it soldered in. My SD card filled up before I could get to the end, but I'll shoot a close-up of the plug. Took the keys all back off, and now I'm cleaning off the green felt. Yeah, there it goes. I did scrape it a bit. Cleaning off the green felt, and I bought a sheet of green felt, but you're not going to see the proper attempt here because I didn't have a wheel when I shot this video. I borrowed a cutting wheel from someone, and it was much better than trying to use a razor blade. You can just order this stuff, but I decided to just buy some green felt. I did originally stack 2 layers and glue them together, and it just wasn't working for me. So I took one of the layers off. I'm going to continue to test this keyboard before I put it up for sale, just to make sure that it's not noisy or anything. But once I got the felt in there, I reassembled everything, and now you can see the final keyboard, all finished and fully functional. My camera shakes a bit because it's not on a tripod. It's jacked up on a really high stand. So you are looking at the finished JV-80. Still a little bit of glue on the outside of the case that I need to clean off. And I've got a little issue. I probably won't replace the screen. There's a tiny bit that's out on the screen, but it doesn't make it unreadable. You can hear there's effects. I honestly have not learned everything on this. Let's see. Yeah, reverb. I was looking to see if there was delay. There's got to be delay on here somewhere, but like I said, I have not learned this keyboard. But the basics are when you're in performance, you've just got 16 sounds because they're layered up a total of 8 layers, which is crazy. And you can use the sliders so I'm not going to dig into the screens because honestly, like I said, I haven't learned this, but you can set them just stacked or you can set them by velocity. Oops. So it's doing weird things. So let me go back to patch mode. Like I said, you've got 8 banks of 8 sounds. So it shows you 1 1, 1 2, 1 3, 1 4. I mean, there's just loads of sounds. You can hear the FX on that one. And then there's a user set. Same thing, there's 8 banks of 8. I think, yeah, this just switches back and forth. Actually, I think, yeah, there are actually 2 banks of internal user sounds. So it holds quite a bit. And then you can do the card. As far as I know, you can change all kinds of parameters with the parameter sliders. But I have not dug into this barely at all. About the only thing I did was dump MIDI from it. So I know the MIDI works out from it. I've got to do some more testing to see about dumping MIDI into it. I think I just don't have my settings right. But you can see the keys are not stuck together. Let's go to a piano. And none of the black keys are sticking, so which when I first cleaned it, a few of them did. And the mod wheel does not stick anymore, which is good. I need an organ for that. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah. Well, let's try this. Yep, it works. I have not messed with the presence or the C1 slider, so I'm not even sure what they do. Well, let's see. Puff. Stab. All right, that's just creepy. Oh, yeah. I cannot play a jazz bass, sorry. That's a vibraphone and then saxophone band or whatever. It definitely has stereo though. And it has aftertouch, which does still work after I replace the pad. Well, I thought this sound had aftertouch, but maybe it doesn't. Yeah, you can hear it kind of going whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Yeah, this one adds some modulation. So it definitely does aftertouch. Oh, yeah, there you go. So there you have it. Roland JV-80. All cleaned up. New pads. New glue on the weights. It's all been cleaned out. And sounds pretty good. Plays great. And it's all ready to go. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. I would love to get some more followers. More videos to come. I know it's been a while since I put one out, but I've got other keyboards waiting in the wings. I just needed to finally finish this JV-80 and get the video out for this one. So there's more to come. Thanks for watching.